Same then.
All right, so we are live on Facebook. Hold on. And all right, we are live. And
Good afternoon, everyone. We had a great session last week and got some really exciting feedback. I want to start again by introducing myself. My name is Thomas Cavanaugh, co-founder of Insight Nova, and got some of our team here. There's no I in team, so I want to say we, not I, but so we have Noelle and Claire and Tara and Michelle, and some of us are full-time with us, and some are with other organizations, but just associates with us. So it's a team effort, and we become teams, we become partners with organizations, and it's pretty exciting to become a we. When you're not alone in a thing, and you still have your autonomy of what you're doing, but you're partnering with others, is just a very fulfilling way to be, because we need to have ourselves in order to give ourselves away. And so I got some questions last time that I thought would be really helpful to respond to initially before I dive into some content. So we are going to be doing some public workshops in the next month, and they're going to be on different topics. We have lots of different directions that we can use the tools that Insight Nova offers, but you don't have to wait for that in order for us to work with you. So if you go to our website and you just click on the link for a consultation, right now we're doing free consultations, and we have a tool for teams. So your whole team can take the assessment and then schedule a time with us to go through it and see how the tool works. And then we can schedule, if you want, training for your team right away. So you don't need to wait until we do the public workshops. Right away, you can schedule a time for us to work with your team. And there's a lot of people that, for example, have deadlines by the end of the year that you're stuck on, that you can't get to the solution. And that's what we do, is we clear away the barriers, the roadblocks for communication, so that you can achieve those goals. So you don't need to wait until we do the public workshop. You can schedule for us to do a half-day training, a full-day training, or even if someone that wants to go, a team that wants to go deeper, a whole week-long training. And so I and my team, our team, we are happy to work with you and meet you where you're at, so that we can get you where you want to be. So today, what we're going to go through, I'm going to present a tool and give you some wild and crazy stories, and then my friend Noelle is going to share how she uses the tool both in her personal life and in the workplace. And so we're going to go big picture, and then I'm going to give you a wild and crazy picture, and then we're going to do some normal uses of this tool. So we can often be discouraged by the problems that we have, and we can approach them in a way that we think is right, because maybe we think the other person is wrong. But as I was saying last week, we need to learn that it's our mindset that drives our behavior, and our behavior drives the results. So if the result is I'm discouraged, then it may be that the behavior of the other person isn't exactly right, but there is another person involved in that, and that's me. That's how I'm responding to them. So below that is a whole story that is my internal story, and that is my feelings, my problems, mindset about the other person or about the situation. And there's also the narrative that I'm telling myself. And below that is my mindset. And all of those are barriers to me, to myself, to my identity in relationship to you. But I can forget who I am. You know, you may remember that classic Disney movie of The Lion King. And remember Simba, he believes that it was his fault that his dad died. Notice the blame there. He thinks it's his fault that his dad, the head lion, died. And so he blames himself. So he runs away and he lives the Hakuna Matata lifestyle. And as he's living that lifestyle, he completely forgets who he is. Then suddenly the crazy monkey shows up and hits him over the head and stirs the water, and he sees his dad's reflection in the water, and he looks up into the sky, and there's his dad speaking to him, and he says, "Simba, remember who you are." And that's what the mindset change does, is when we come to our senses, when we remember who we are, it changes us. It changes the story that we're telling ourselves. We're out of the narrative that gets us stuck. And we start telling a story that's hopeful, that's no longer in that discouragement, but we have courage to step into those problems without blame, without accusation, without that self-deception, but with real self-knowledge. But what that means is then I need to realize that this person that I'm interacting with, that I have this problem with, they have the same kind of problems that I have. Just because I'm out of my self-deception doesn't mean that they're out of their self-deception. So I need to interact with them the same way I interacted with myself to get myself out. Now I need to do it for others. It's like you're pulled out of a fire. And when you're pulled out of the fire, you're safe. But then if I look at the other people that are in that fire and say, yeah, too bad for you guys, you got yourself stuck in the fire, I'm forgetting that someone or something pulled me out of that fire. And so what I want to do in the next tool I'm going to show you is, how do you put on the fireman outfit and go into that fire and pull other people out of that fire? And so this tool that we use it's called KCS. So I'm going to present my screen here, and I'm going to show you how this tool works. So we call this cognitive empathy. There's a big emphasis on empathy in our culture right now, but some people are not as emotional as others. And so it can be scary, like, gosh, I don't think I can do empathy. But that's why we call it cognitive empathy, because we're going to teach you how to use your mind in a way that you go out of yourself into the other person, so you can come back into yourself and consider, what do I want to give? What do I want to do for you? So that then we can go beyond empathy and break through that self-deception that's preventing us from becoming a we, from becoming a team, so that we can work together and accomplish those solutions that we need in our life, in our work, in our inner world, our relationships with the people that are most significant to us. So it's very, very simple. There's you and there's me. And if I'm in what we call the beta mindset, where I'm self-protective, I'm focused on me and how I have what I want. And then there's a problem that presents itself. I'm likely to put that problem between us. So then I focus in on that problem, and I start to look at you through the lens, through my beta mindset, my in-house self-protective mindset. And I'm seeing you in some sense as maybe even enhancing the problem. It's not just that there's a problem, you are making it worse. So in other words, I'm blaming you or accusing you of either bringing the problem to me, or you are the problem. You are the source of the problem. And so it's a very simple step. It's a courageous step, though. If I'm discouraged, it's probably because I'm looking at things or people in the way that you see on the screen right now. So what I need to do is take this courageous step where I stop looking at the problem and definitely stop looking at you through the lens of that problem. I need to step back and then turn and just look at you. And when I turn and just look at you, then and only then am I ready to look at the problem through your eyes. And when I look at the problem through your eyes, suddenly you become a person to me. I can see your humanity. And I think, gosh, yeah, that is a problem. And I know what that's like. And then I come to my senses. I remember who I am to you when I see who you are to me. And that gives us the opportunity to become a we. You're not the problem. I'm not the problem. There is a problem, and it's our problem together. So then if we both do this for each other, then we create collective consciousness where we become aware of how you are experiencing the problem. You become aware of how I'm experiencing the problem, and we're able to lift the problem together. It's too heavy for one of us, but together we can lift it, maybe even easily, depending on what it is. But then there's a third step, collective responsibility. You have a responsibility to it. I have a responsibility. But if we start with that third step of collective responsibility without establishing the consciousness and becoming a we, then we're likely to drop that on one of our feet or both of our feet, and it becomes a way for us to become more have more avarice towards each other, more animosity, where that blame game continues. And so it's really three simple steps. First, I need to know you. And when I know you, I begin to care about you. And when I care about you, then I'm able to serve you. And so we need to get genuinely curious about each other. And then when I'm curious about you, I begin to adopt your concern. And that leads me to act on that desire to help. So we need to stop, get curious, and ask, what are you wanting? What are you needing? What are you experiencing with this problem? And then I can slow down and adopt your concern by seeing the problem through your eyes. It changes me. It changes my experience of you and the problem. And I experience your concerns as though they are my own. So then I'm ready to go back into myself and ask myself, what do I desire for you? So that I can have follow up and follow through on acting on that desire to help you. Now, there's a third tool, because you might say, well, how do you even get to this point? Well, if I want to have good communication with you, there's a problem, I need to bring it up and say, I'm respecting you by bringing up the problem. If I don't bring up the problem, I'm probably in the beta mindset about you. But if I see you as a person, then I'm going to bring up the problem. And then I need to respect the facts. I can't exaggerate the facts. I can't say, it's not that big of a deal, nor can I say it's a huge deal and it's, getting out of, it's crazy beyond control. Then I need to respect myself and say, but I might feel that way. I might feel like this is a huge problem. So then we get to this scenario where I can actually talk to you about the real problem. So I'm going to tell you a story from a client that it was a family, actually. So their son was struggling with some really, really big issues. He was depressed and had some very dark thoughts and dark actions he was going to take. And they called me in, and we went through this process where I got to know him, and I fostered a conversation where the parents could get to know him And you know what? The problem that he was having that seems so dark and psychological and complex, when we got genuinely curious, it was something very practical. He was a young man that was thinking about his dream. And his parents actually, because they thought he was much bigger and better and more capable, they thought that dream was too small. So they were stifling his dreams because they wanted something that they thought was an even better dream. But their better dream just wasn't his dream. So we spent some time getting to know him and hearing what he wanted. And then I turned to the parents after they had started, said, do you see what he's wanting, what he's needing? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. He wants to, in this case, he wanted to be not a real estate, he wanted to be a travel agent. And so they thought that was too small for him. He could have been something much more, but he wanted to be this. And so then they started started asking him, like, what do you need? What in order to move towards his dream, what do you need? And he starts telling us what he needs. And I then asked the parents, go back into yourself. What are you wanting? What are you willing to give to help him to reach his dream? And they had all these things that, because they had gone through this process, they'd never been able to do. And therapists and counselors and all these other, helping people had been involved. Even the police with the dark actions that he was going to take. I mean, there was all these people involved, but what it came down to was we needed to just stop and get to know him and adopt his concerns so that we could help him to go forward with his dreams. And this is, now like a decade ago. You know what he does for a living? He does exactly what his dream is. And he actually uses this and some of our other tools in his business. And so what does he do when someone comes in, they want to take a trip? He stops and he gets to know them, genuinely curious about them, so they can see that he really cares. And he can plan out a trip with them and then offer them a deal so that they can go on the trip of a lifetime. So that's a big, scary situation that hopefully you're not in, but if you are, reach out to us. We're happy to work with you in any situation. These tools apply for personal life and for work. But I want to turn it over to Noelle now to share her story.
So mine is, I would say it's definitely not as, intense. I have a son who he's in the 3rd grade this year. And our issue that we've been struggling with is getting him to do his homework. It's been back and forth of, why isn't your homework done? It's bedtime. You should have finished your homework. And so I thought, all right, we're going to have a new rule. Your homework has to be done as soon as you come home and come off the bus and get in the house. You have to do your homework. And that turned into a huge meltdown with him. He's like, I can't do my homework when I get home. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I can't. Why can't I wait? And I said, because, I'm trying to control the situation. And I'm like, because I said you need to do it. And this is when you need to do it. But then I'm looking at him as a person, not just an 8-year-old. And he's really upset. He's distraught over me forcing him to do his homework as soon as he gets inside the house. So I said, let me talk to him. Let me think about, I know KCS. I know this. Let me see him as this little person that he is. And he tells me the bus ride home is so loud and it's miserable. And he is hot and tired when he comes home. And he's telling me this, and I'm like, okay, I would probably feel the same way. I would feel irritated, coming in and then having to immediately switch. I just was at school all day and do more school. And so I'm asking him, I'm like, well, what do you need when you come home from school? And he says, I just want a snack and to be alone in my room. And I'm thinking to myself, that is that's pretty reasonable. So sitting there and, listening and just knowing what his needs are, it makes me care about him in a way that, it just transforms him into this individual being. He's not just my kid that I'm trying to force him to do his homework. And so he tells me that. And then, so we made a rule, 4 o'clock, he comes home at 3, and from 3 to 4, that is his own time. He can have a snack, he can watch TV, he can read a book, he can go outside. But at 4 o'clock, if that's homework time. And it's worked great. It's worked great. I know that I come in and I say, okay, Jackson, it's 4 o'clock, it's time to do homework. And he turns and looks at me and he's like, yep, 4 o'clock, time to do homework. So just taking that little bit of time to really understand like what his needs are, and then feeling like, oh my gosh, I do care about this. Like, not just because he's my kid, but because he's a person that has, needs and wants and desires also. And then we were able to really figure out a way to serve him and also serve me as his mom, making sure he's getting his homework done, and, and his teacher to get his homework done on time too.
I love that. I love that. And the amazing thing is he's going to remember that, and he's going to start using the tool on you, and it'll cascade into, I'm sure it already has, into the rest of your family.
Yeah, it's actually been pretty awesome to see, now I'm starting to do it with my 4-year-old, and he's, young, but once you just start asking the questions, it doesn't have to, it's not saying they're dictating and they're telling you what they want, but they're expressing their needs. They feel comfortable expressing their needs. And they know that when they do that, you're going to care and find a way to help them. I think it's huge.
Yeah. It's so simple. We all kind of know this, but that's why it's so helpful to be part of the Insight Nova community, where we talk about these things. On our team, and you take them into your home and also to your work, and the other people on our team that are working with us and other people. It overlaps in everything.
Yeah, it infiltrates so many areas of your life, and I think I just see it like, oh, I need a KCS right now.
Oh gosh, there's so many times that that just, I'm in a situation, I'm starting to get into the beta mindset. Beta, you're just like, I'm focused on myself, and I'm like, okay, KCS. Do you have a work example?
I do. The work example is definitely, I would say it's like a little more complex, but not anything major. When I was a manager some years back, I think I kind of did this intuitively with not thinking about it. But when I learned KCS, this example immediately came to mind. And it was, I worked at a fairly large retail store, and I was operations manager, and I was in charge of like 25 cashiers. We had like 10 registers. They were always full, but those were my people. Those were my team. I was, in charge of them. And I would get so frustrated that they would come into work with like a bad attitude or like act grouchy, and just, showing up in this on the register and just acting so not what we talked about and not how we were trained. And there was one girl specifically, she would come in, her uniform would be a mess. She just looked frazzled all the time. And I cared about all of these cashiers. Like I really did. I want them to do a good job. And I literally was like, they're like my little litter of, I just loved them. But there was one girl in particular, we'll just say Samantha. I just really was like, I need to talk to her. I need to figure out what's going on, because most of the times she's excellent. She comes into work and she has a great smile and she does everything that we ask. And she is such a hard worker and she's super enthusiastic. And then these other times it's like nothing. She just comes in and she's just, and so one day in the break room, she was on her break and I said, hey, don't go back to work yet. Let me just, there's enough coverage out here. I just want to let's just talk for a second. So I was asking her, she had a book she was like doing dual enrollment with all these different classes, and she was trying to get ahead because she was in college and she's working this full-time job. And I had no idea she's also in college full-time. So she's bringing her books with her and she's doing all of this stuff. And I'm like, whoa, Sam, that's a lot. Like, you have a lot going on right now. And she was like, yeah, sometimes I just feel like I don't know what I'm doing and I just get really overwhelmed. And I told her, you know, I'm really impressed that you're able to keep it together and come to work and, you know, have a great attitude. And even though you're back here on your breaks, you know, studying and getting ready to leave and go take an exam. And so in that conversation after that, she continued to open up to me more and more. And she would come in and she would see me and she'd be like, oh my gosh, I have a test today. I'm so crazy. And I would say, okay, well, if you need to take an extra break or, you know, just let me know, like, let me know what you need. And it was an intuitive thing where I started to get to know her more and know what was going on in her life and understand her needs of, you know, maybe she needs an extra 5 minutes when she comes in before she goes out on the register just to like get herself together. And find a way to care about what's going on in her life. So I would be like, hey, Sam, like, how was your test yesterday? Or what are you, you know, like, what are you doing next semester? And all of those things. And you could just see her face change and light up because she knew that I cared about her. Mm-hmm. And it just set up the rest of her shift in with a different mindset, because I feel like she could tell that I knew her and I cared about her. And I wanted to serve her. I wanted to serve her so she could, you know, serve at her job. But that's an example that when I learned about this, I just really have always thought about, because it's something that we can do intuitively, but sometimes that we forget about just these 3 simple steps, but they make such a huge impact.
Yeah. Amen. That is an awesome story. It's so simple, but I mean, think about how many people got fired because they didn't get KCS.
Or I mean, yeah. Or like, I think about I think about other managers, you know, I'm not like trying to say, oh, whatever, but I've seen other people, they're like, can you just stop? Can you just fix your attitude and get out there? You're supposed to be, you know, smiling. And ever since then, and that's why I think I've been so drawn to the material and all of this, because I know how important it is. I've seen it, you know, and in real time. Yeah.
And I think everyone has. So like once people get hold of this material, people, it's very, very rare that I teach this material where people are like, wow, I've never heard of that. Right. Right. I've never seen that. It's, everyone has had some kind of good experience with somebody where this happened. It's just that we think that somehow it's right to do the, get your act together, get out of here mindset. But if I see you as a person and I work with you and do what you just did, what you described doing for that employee, then, not only does it help that employee, but the rippling effect throughout the organization, it changes everyone's mindset to see this person that was this disgruntled employee to now probably one of the better employees. And it, the total improvement for your life, you get excited about going to work because you know that you're going to be known, cared for, and served as you're serving within that organization. So we need to close out here, but I hope that this was helpful for you all. And if you want to reach out today or anytime, we're ready to do simple workshops with your team, or you individually, or even for your family. And if you want to learn more about this, you can reach out to us. You click the link below to learn more or have a free consultation with us. Next week, what we're going to do is we're going to go into our team tools, and we're going to teach you about our team tools so that how you can have really strong partnerships with the people on your team and also with your spouse. This is a great tool that we use, that we offer to help you to have all the relationships in your life really make a lot more sense so that you can care for each other. You know each other, so you care for each other, and you can serve each other without being discouraged, but living in that courage that we all need, that gives us hope and satisfaction. So great to be with you all, and hope to hear from many of you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.